Welcome, everyone. I'm Mariquita Solis, the live stream host of all-creatures.org. All-creatures.org was founded in 1998 by Pastor Frank Hoffman and his first wife, Mary, and launched as the pioneer website in the United States for faith-based animal rights veganism. Today, led by our executive director, Tams Nicholson, we exist for all people seeking current animal rights, vegan resources, and offer decades of free animal rights and vegan content, including a huge repository of vegan sermons and Bible commentaries, animal rights strategies, free vegan authored books, recipes, upcoming events around the world, and the works of various vegan authors, poets, and artists. We host current sites for almost 20 vegan and animal rights organizations, including Stop Crush, Unparalleled Suffering, and the Committee to Abolish Sports Hunting. We also maintain nearly 25 archival sites from animal rights, vegan activism of past decades. The bottom line is that we work to unite compassionate and empathetic humans across the globe, from the past and present, who honor the dignity of each and every creature so that all beings thrive on a flourishing planet Earth. So, and to all of our viewers that are watching in Lansing, Michigan, be sure to visit the vegan-owned Everybody Reads bookstore on Saturday, August 31st between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m., where all used book sales proceeds for the day go to all-creatures.org. And thank you, Scott Harris, for this amazing donation to our nonprofit. So today, everyone, thank you for watching, and make sure that you give StreamYard permission to use your name and let us see your questions and comments, because I'm very honored to welcome Rae Sikora. Rae has been a spokesperson for animals, the environment, and human rights for over 40 years. Her programs have been changing people's vision of what is possible to create in our lives and in the world. Rae has worked internationally with participants ranging from teachers, students, and prisoners to businesses and activists. As co-founder of the Institute for Humane Education, Rae created interactive critical thinking tools that are now being used by people around the globe. She holds degrees in cultural anthropology and environmental education from the University of Wisconsin. Rae draws from years of experience to help individuals and groups discover how implementing changes personally and locally can bring about positive change globally. She's also co-founder of Veg Fund and Route 66, a vegan food truck turned brick and mortar cafe. Additionally, Rae was selected by the North American Vegetarian Society as the 2013 recipient of its Vegan Hall of Fame, and is co-author of Plant Peace Daily, everyday outreach for people who care. Her semi-fictional memoir, Little Jew on the Soul Train, is currently available on both Amazon and Ingram Spark. Her novel, Sinny, Born into Homelessness, will be published in 2023. So welcome, Rae. Thank you so much for joining us here. I'm excited to talk to you again. And where are you joining from?
Thank you for having me, first of all. And I'm joining from just outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico. We have 38 acres in the National Forest, and we call it the Dove because we have a big pavilion that we built, and Dove stands for Dome of Vegan Events. And our house is a dome, so that is where I am joining you from.
Beautiful. In the beautiful state of New Mexico. I love it there. I used to live there. So I feel, well, I'll be visiting you, definitely. I know it's on my list. So
Better.
So I will, don't worry. I'm excited to be speaking with you again as the representative for all-creatures.org. So Rae, you have just made such an impact on our world. I just can't wait to hear about this. Can you tell us when you first became vegan and what led you to make that transition?
A lot of accidents. I wouldn't say I was like on this trajectory that was conscious, like, yeah, I am going to be an animal rights activist. I'm going to be vegan. I didn't have a clue. And when I was 15, I think that's what, I don't know when if you look at where your path actually starts, you could go way back, So mine goes back probably when I was 5 years old. I was terrified of all animals. And my father didn't want me held back. So he went to the local shelter. He brought a puppy home. And I was so afraid of that puppy. Like if I would see a dog outside at that point, I wouldn't go outside all day. And he made me sit every night for an hour with that puppy on my lap. And I don't remember how long it took, but at some point, that puppy was afraid too. We looked each other in the eye, and I realized I was just in love. And it shifted everything. Now my father says he created a monster with that, because then I was like, whoa, this individual I'm looking at, not just some scary being. And I started rescuing every animal I could find who needed help, and wildlife, domestic animals. So that started in elementary school. And then at 15, I walked into a leather shop with a friend after, Marquita, I had just eaten a hot dog, like, like made out of animal products hot dog, no vegan hot dog. And I had just downed this hot dog. We walk into a leather shop, and there were skins hanging, and you could kind of smell the leather. And I said to my friend, don't buy anything. It's dead animals in here. And the woman behind the counter changed my life with one little question. She said, oh, do you eat meat? And my 15-year-old brain, it was such a disconnect, Mariquita. You know how that is. You're not connecting it. I just have to let a dog by. Okay. Yeah, it was just, my brain went, what do dead animals and meat have to do with each other? That was my first thought. And then the light bulb went on. And it took me a moment. And then I turned to the woman and I said, no, I don't eat meat. So the friend had just seen me eat the hot dog, like down it, not thinking even. And when we got out of the store, she said, why'd you lie to the woman in the store? And I said, I didn't lie. I will never eat meat again. Never. But then that made me wonder, like, what else am I missing? What other blind spots do I have? What else am I supporting that doesn't really fit with my values of caring and compassion for all beings? And so I started researching like crazy. And then another wonderful gift in a horrible package came my way. I was renting a little cabin from a dairy farmer, and I heard this sound one day. We were on the same land, and I heard this sound I had never heard, and I got on my bike and I rode over, and he was loading male calves to go to a veal facility. And they were bellowing for their mamas, crying, crying, crying. Some of them still had wet umbilical cords. And the mamas were screaming for the babies. And I hadn't thought about dairy. At that point, I was vegetarian, but I didn't think about, who is that milk for? What's the reality of that industry? So when I saw this going on, I asked him if I could go see the moms who were behind the barn. And I went behind the barn, and they were pressed against the barbed wire trying to get to their babies. And there was blood coming down from some, and their mouths were just wide open, bellowing. And I thought, there is no way I'm going to be part of this industry. But I had never heard of a vegan. I didn't know what it was. And so I was about 20 years old. So that is 48 years ago. And I stopped all animal products because I thought, I am not going to pay money for this kind of suffering. But that really made me want to dig deeper. It also made me want to share with other people, like share what the reality was of these industries. And I was trying to figure out, how do you do that? How do you get the word out to as many people as possible of what this reality is? Because, most of us are not exposed to it. It's behind closed doors, closed gates. People don't realize what they're supporting on a variety of levels with other species. And as painful as it was continuous heartbreak to realize the reality and to be looking deeper into it. As painful as it was, I wouldn't turn back, no way. And I just thought, I want my values to be aligned with my choices, and I want to help other people do the same. I want my deepest core values to be reflected in my choices every day. So it changed everything. I did finally meet someone who called herself vegan, and I was like, oh, what is that? Like, I had a feeling. And she said, well, I don't consume any animal products. I don't purchase any animal products. I said, clothing? She said, yeah, clothing. I said, everything? She said, everything. And I said, oh my God, I have a word for myself. I was so excited. I'm like, woohoo, I have a word. I'm a vegan. And I don't even, like, now, I don't even say I'm a vegan. I say I'm practicing veganism, because I don't think I'm a final product in the vegan world. I'm always learning new information. And, even after 48 years of practicing veganism, I still learn things all the time that I was unaware of. And so I just try to stay really open to learning new information and changing my habits. And nobody's got it down perfectly. I know that. I don't know anybody who identifies as vegan who doesn't support whatever it is, gas station, grocery stores, places that also sell animal products. So there is no shining star vegan who supports no businesses that have animal products in them. But we do our best, with what we know. And that's why I call it a practice. That was a
Well, that's
long
very
answer.
true. Well, that was perfect. And Dr. Rao says that too, Salish Rao. It's a journey, right? It's never ending journey.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
just do the best we can. And there is no perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, and thanks for watching JJ. And JJ has a great channel. She's also working hard to spread the news like we all are. Um,
That's great.
Let me ask you this, Ray. Did your friend become vegan, and when she saw you change, did you have supports within your family or friendships, or did you find yourself isolated when you became vegan?
Completely isolated. For my family, it was really, really foreign to them. I think in many ways they're an incredibly supportive family, but when this came up, they didn't know what to do. My parents thought I was going to, shrivel up and die of starvation. And, even when I just did vegetarian, they were like, what? Like, you cannot live without meat. And we were quite the meat eating household. Every single meal, there was meat 3 times a day. So there wasn't really support for it. And luckily, my best friend at the time was a canine. And so, it didn't affect me in a really intense way, like, oh, I have no one. But it was lonely. I'll say that. It was lonely. And also, if you think about that time, like 48 years ago, the early 70s, there wasn't an online community to be part of. There weren't the food choices in the store. So I was really starting from zero, trying to figure it out on my own. Like, what am I going to eat? At first I was just like, well, okay, peanut butter and jelly, that works. I had no idea how to go about it, but I stumbled through and figured it out. And I did like crazy little things. I would read as much as I could at the library because I didn't have online presence to research. And I found out about tempeh, and I'm like, tempeh, I could make tempeh. So I was like making my own tempeh in an incubator that I made out of a cooler with a light bulb. And you couldn't get any of these things in the stores. Making my own plant-based milk, which I still do actually. But it was really, I wouldn't say I was like a pioneer because there were a lot of people doing it. I just didn't know those people. And I wasn't part of those communities who were already doing this. And so it was a solo journey for quite a while. And I still couldn't turn back. It's sort of like telling the jury to disregard something that they've heard or seen. There was no way I was going to unsee or unknow what I knew. So then I think it gave me a purpose. There was a point where I was like, how do I share this in a loving way with others? And that's what led me into humane education. I thought, oh, the adults, they're so set in their ways. I got to work with kids. I considered activism to be working on the symptoms, but education to be working on the prevention. Let's really teach critical thinking and compassion. And with that, maybe we won't have all these symptoms that we have to deal with later with activism. And I started all my sick days, vacation days, everything I had from my paying job. I would go into schools on my own and came up with really interactive programs for kids to really, I didn't tell them what to do, but I helped them figure out who and what they care about and was it showing up in their lives? And how was it not showing up in their lives? So they really got to come to their own conclusions with it. And I kind of fell in love with humane education. And I didn't know anyone else was doing it. I was a little clueless. And then I heard about a conference out east. I had never even been out east in the Boston area. It was at Harvard, and it was a humane education conference. I didn't even call what I was doing humane education because I didn't know that's what it was. And I was like, humane education? Oh, let me read about this. And then I was like, oh, that's what I'm doing. And I went out to that conference, and that's when Zoe Weil and I met. And we ended up working together and started this Center for Humane Education. And now it's called the Institute for Humane Education. There was a master's program. And she and I, we were a good combo. We came together, and when they say the sum is greater than its parts, Zoe and I were definitely greater than our parts. And we just really, we worked on, first we were just doing the programs ourselves. And then I said, why don't we certify other people to do this so it can be more broad, it can reach more people around the world. And she loved the idea, and off we went, just created that. So it was beautiful. But that, trusting that path really helped me deal with the loneliness, because it stopped being lonely. It actually became the opposite. When I stayed true to my values and put my time and effort into helping co-create a compassionate world, I ended up, what's the opposite of lonely? Overwhelmed with friends? Whatever the opposite of lonely is. Yeah, I have a huge community, and it's hard to keep up with the whole community of like amazing, compassionate people. And so I'm so grateful that, I was somehow led on this path, and it led me to a purpose and a community that is heart-centered, and I wouldn't change it for the world, even with, as we know, the difficult parts of what we know.
Yeah, and that is so true. There's a big heart in this community. And whether you're talking about the difficult parts, what would you tell someone who is really struggling with despair and, the feelings that we get a lot of times when we first discover and we feel like that we can't do anything. And the sadness can be overwhelming. What would you say to that person?
That sadness, that despair of knowing the reality, it can be, I've seen it really disempower people and make people just sort of give up on what their own passion is, give up on activism, give up on being a voice. And that's tragic, because if your heart is open to all beings and you don't feel empowered to bring that to the world, it's a tragedy. So even after all these years, I mean, I've been doing animal rights work for 48 years. And even after all this time, I go into despair sometimes, and we have to find tools that work for each of us, that will keep us open-minded, open-hearted, um, and positive. I wouldn't say I'm the most hopeful person for our species. I think I've seen a little too much. But in addition to that, I would say I am positive in my actions. I see any of us, you, me, anyone who has chosen this path, or not chosen it, but living it, anyone like that, you have the ability to be an invitation to a community. I always say, like, oh, we're here to invite, not fight. I want us to be an irresistible community of compassion for each other, for other species, for the entire planet, for all life. So how do we do that? How do you become that invitation that is completely irresistible? People are like, whoa, whatever you're doing, I want to do it. And it's doing that requires some work on our part. It doesn't just happen because we know too much. So for me, I have found tools that work for me. I have teachers who I would say are spiritual teachers. I don't adhere to any specific religion. I like what all religions have in common, the do unto others in all its forms that it takes in the various religions. That I can adhere to. But spiritual practice is really important because otherwise we get caught up in what's going on the planet. So I have a meditation practice, and I also have teachers who help me keep a perspective. There's an amazing teacher he's based in Florida, but he's well known now around the world. His name is Michael or Mickey Singer, and he has free weekly talks. And it is amazing when you find a teacher who gives you a good perspective on this reality that we're living right now. There is nothing more valuable than that, to keep you on track and to keep you wanting to live and to live your passion on earth, to live your purpose. So he's one of the teachers. And, I have a lot of resources like that. I've worked with another teacher and volunteered at her school, Byron Katie, and she wrote the book called Loving What Is. And it's very helpful just to have these strengthening tools and tools that keep our perspective on track so that we don't fall into this deep, dark despair. I think another very simple tool, a lot of the people who I speak with who are in really deep despair and are like, I can't do this work anymore. It's too much. We're not getting anywhere. We haven't made any progress. We choose what to look at and where to look. So if you're only looking at, oh my God, we have so far to go. This is still happening. This is still happening. We have so far to go. If you are only looking that direction, you will go into despair. But if you can kind of turn and look at how far we've come, wow, it is powerful. I think in a way it's easier for me to do because of 48 years of being able to see how far we've come. I'll go into the grocery store. My partner, JC, he'll be like, oh, pick up some ice cream today. And I'm like, well, what kind? There's hundreds of vegan ice creams at the grocery. And I say, well, what kind? He says, well, any vegan ice cream. I'm like, well, that's not narrowing it down much. That was impossible. 48 years ago, there was nothing like that. So I do see how far we've come. I do, and that helps so much, because otherwise you're going to feel like you are putting effort in, you're planting seeds, and no fruits are coming. He and I call our organization Plant Peace Daily, and there's a reason we did that. Number one, we wanted to be under the peace umbrella because peace and nonviolence, that umbrella includes all beings. So we wanted to be under that umbrella, which is why we called it that. But the other reason was, if you just keep planting those seeds, you can't get attached to what they grow into. Occasionally you find out, oh, that seed I planted turned into a tree. Look at all that fruit. You get to see someone or an organization who has been influenced by the seeds you planted. But I would say about 90% of the time, you don't get to see what kind of fruit comes from your seeds that you plant. And that shouldn't stop you from planting them. It is having an impact. We really affect each other. We're such social beings. And so whatever it is that you're doing or saying, you're just being an example of what's possible in the world. So I think, I don't know if you have a way to share my information at the end, but if you do, if anybody is dealing with despair, I've done workshops that are called Despair Repair. And it's something I love doing. I love helping people who are dealing with despair and feel like they can't act on what they want to do because of the despair. So anyone is welcome to contact me. And, I don't charge anyone anything. It's a joy for me. So if anyone needs that kind of support, I work with volunteering with an organization. Do you know AAM, Animal Activist Mentors? So I work with that
Yes, I
organization.
do.
Yeah, and they're great, So I've been a mentor in that organization. And that's one form of getting support, but I'm fine with just one-on-one with people because there are so many great tools. And I love to share those with people to keep them motivated and positive and healthy in this work. We have some of us, I've done a lot of undercover photography and videography in some of the worst places on earth. And it haunts you. And you have to have tools to deal with what you witness, or you go into PTSD or just complete despair.
Yeah, that's very true. And what website or where can they reach you?
So you can reach me just at my email is a very easy way. So it's just my name, RAE, at, and then this is all one word, very long, plantpeacedaily.org. And you can also go to our website, which is www.plantpeacedaily.org. And there's lots of resources there too.
Okay, is that right, Rae?
Yep, I think so. Look, I'm going to put my spectacles on and make sure. Yep.
Okay, wonderful. So, how does the peace of not eating creatures manifest in your life today?
Oh, wow. It's just so much part of my life. I think I don't even think about it, of course, because it's just my life. I think the most beautiful part of it now for me is that, it used to be like in my family, I was the only one. And now multiple family members are vegan and they get it. They're not just food vegans, they're ethical vegans. They get it. My niece is one of the regional coordinators for vegan outreach. So that is, for me, that is just pure joy because there is this thing like the ones who you can be the most disappointed in can be your family. Because I don't know, we have higher expectations of family and friends than we do of strangers. So if it's like, whoa, wait a minute, these people, they're intelligent, they're caring, they know the issues because they're exposed to me. How could they not act on it? It's so much more disappointment when family members or dear friends do not act on what they know to be true and don't act on their most core compassionate values. So when they do, it has the opposite effect. It's like, oh, yes, I knew you had it in you. But, it's like I used to do these workshops that were, I used to be a vegetarian, and then I would incorporate with it, and I would try to find out like what makes people not stay with being vegan or vegetarian, because you hear it from people. Oh, I used to be vegan. Oh, I tried vegan. And it's very foreign to me, because once you know the information, it's like, really? You wouldn't support that if that was a dog in the middle of the table turned into a roast? So where is that disconnect? And and I love really thinking about that and looking at that and trying to figure out what allows that disconnect, which is why I used to do those workshops. It was really my own research, in the form of workshop. And, I found out that there were three main things everywhere in the world that made people kind of turn away from practicing veganism or vegetarianism. And that was lack of community, was like big, really big in it. So that's just so important, the community part. The second aspect was lack of ease in finding alternatives in food, clothing, whatever it is. So if you're in a rural area where you don't have really a lot of options that way, what do you do? And so that was the second big one that people were like, it's just too hard. I can't get this. I can't get that. And the third one was really interesting to me, which was they forgot how bad things were because they weren't continuously exposed to the horrors. So they went into this complacency. I'm continuously exposed to the horrors because of my work. So there's no way I'm going into that complacency. But if you're just living your everyday life, going to work, coming home, and you're not seeking out that information, you can forget. Oh, that's right. This, what I just call yogurt, is a container of suffering. You can forget because you're like, I love yogurt, or oh, I love cheese, or whatever it is. So that can make people turn away from it. And, but I think one of the biggest is community and wanting to fit in. Humans want to fit in. So I think my joy is helping people find community in it. Like really just that. It's so incredible. Like before COVID, we used to have in Santa Fe, New Mexico here, we used to host the vegan Thanksgiving. And we would get like 250 people coming to the Thanksgiving. And everybody would be like, this is the most amazing event. This is so incredible. I love the food. I love the people. It's fun. It's delicious. It's everything. And you see that joy, that connection. And I think, I'm a sucker for happy endings and creating happiness. I really am just a sucker for it. So, like my partner and I go to Mexico or Central America in the winter, and we do animal rescue and free spay neuter clinics and fostering animals. And people are like, Jesus, why don't you just take a vacation? And I'm like, oh, this is it. Like there is so much joy in taking all of these different beings, from dogs to pelicans, from suffering into a beautiful life where their needs are met and they're cared for. So I get fed by it. People will be like, oh, you're so selfless. And I'm like, no, I am so selfish. I get more than I give in doing this. It's not a selfless thing. It's just loving to see suffering turn into joy and happiness.
Yeah, I feel the same way because I do a lot of. So the leader of the animal ministry involved in one of the leaders of the Earth Care, and they're like, "Well, when do you take a break?" But that is my break. That's my joy.
Exactly. Exactly.
That is it. Yeah. So I really understand what you're saying. Yeah, even volunteering at the nature center, it's like, well, you're always doing this, but that's my downtime, volunteering at the nature center. So it all comes together. Right?
Wait,
It
are
all
we
comes together.
sisters? Were we separated at birth?
Maybe. Oh my gosh. Well, you have so many experiences. what is the most memorable experience of your vegan lifestyle so far?
Oh, most
That's a big
memorable.
one.
That is a big question because there is a lot. I think one of the most, when I think of memorable, I think of like what is really, really the most satisfying. Like, oh, the amount of effort put in, what came out of it. And, I used to, I haven't gone since COVID, I haven't gone to the Middle East to work, but I used to work in the Middle East with groups of teachers, training them in humane education and compassionate living. And for me, that was really maybe, I guess, they're all memorable, but that was the most satisfying for sure. Because you're seeing, certainly the male teachers who I worked with, they come in and this is how I kind of visualize it. They're like this closed bud of a flower. They are not going to open for anything. And as little boys, they are given kudos in the cultures that I've worked in the Middle East. The boys are given kudos if they show violence toward their mothers, their sisters, and the animals. Then they're like, oh, you're a good man. So this is from when they're little boys. And those kudos turn into men who are still trying to please their father and their grandfather, and they're adults. And so I feel like my work there has been to help them identify, to stop trying to please your father and your grandfather. Who are you? Who are you as an adult? What do you care about as an adult? And how are you going to live that? And I would say it's not easy work. You can't be too sensitive to what people say to you, because in the beginning they say some pretty awful stuff to me, and they don't want anything to do with compassionate living or anything like that. But then I feel like it's watching them open like a flower. Like I see them go from, I don't care about animals, I don't care about women, da 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 da, all that. And they're very open about it. They go from that to being these really caring, critical thinking humans. And it's like watching somebody go from this little closed up bud to, just opening up to their own hearts and their own choices and being adults. Stop trying to please daddy and grandpa and figure out how you're going to live in the world. What do you want to co-create in the world? So I'd say that's my most satisfying. It's all satisfying. It's great. I love anything that helps co-create a compassionate world, but that one, I think, because so many people have given up on them as having any kindness. I've had people say it to me, why do you work with those men that, they don't have an ounce of kindness? And then I try and tell people, like, they do. They have as much as we do. It's just buried under more cultural garbage. And that's who I speak to. I speak to what's under all that cultural garbage and tradition that says violence is okay. And to just watch somebody wake up like that is really, it brings tears to my eyes. It's so fabulous to see that, and then to see them standing up for other species in a culture that does not promote that. So it's fantastic.
Yes, the humanity. I think we've lost that connection, and working with people one on one is so beautiful when you can help them see the beauty in themselves that they have forgotten or that's been shut down by society and not recognized. It's so sad. I mean, that's where we've gone wrong, is by turning our backs on, I don't even want to say humanness. Is it more like animalness? Because animals
Yes.
are kinder than humans.
Yeah,
So that,
absolutely. And I feel
yeah.
like, we're very disconnected from nature as a species. We've forgotten we're part of nature. We are nature. And we get caught up in our human culture of here, all about the human culture. And we forget, whoa, I'm in this big, beautiful world and I'm part of it. I am nature. I was given a beautiful gift last year of a month-long trip to Africa. An organization I volunteered with gave it to me as a gift. And I really couldn't believe it was a trip of a lifetime, because I got to be with these beings, these animals, fellow animals who I thought I'd never see in person, and I was kind of like, I wanted to say hello and goodbye. I don't know how long any of us will be here. But on that trip, I don't usually go on an organized tour. It was a tour. There were 13 of us. And I loved the African people. I loved the animals. And I didn't really understand the American tourists. They were so not similar to me in terms of their lifestyle and culture. And so we'd go on these vehicles and do drives in the Okavanga Delta and lots of places to see the animals, but there weren't toilets. And I soon realized that the women, who were all in their 60s and 70s, had never peed outside. Like, because we could tell the drivers to stop. When you want them to stop, you say bushy, bushy. And it means stop, I have to pee. And I would just hop out and I'd pee. And they would say, when are we going to be at a real toilet again? And then we were on a long drive. And these women were like, okay, Rae, there's no way I'm going to make it to the next toilet. So can you show us how to do this? So look how domesticated humans have become, how disconnected from, and I'm very undomesticated. So I'm kind of the opposite of that. But, so I had all these women who I said, okay, here's how you squat. If you can't squat, here's what you can do against a tree. Here's, like, I was teaching them how to pee. Like, that's how disconnected we are from nature, from our nature. We've gotten so caught up in the human conveniences that we've built that we have forgotten this amazing place that we are connected to. And yeah, so that was very eye-opening for me, because I'm so undomesticated. And I'm like, okay, how do you get to your 60s and 70s and never have peed outside? Like, okay, it's just part of us. It's our animal nature, our beautiful animal nature. So, yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, you're right. And we are so suffering again. I mean, it's this circle of earth, animals, and we're part of this circle, and we've separated ourselves, and we're hurting from that, and everyone is hurting. We hurt, all the animals hurt, Mother Nature hurts, the trees, the rainforest. We are all hurting. And what I loved about living in Albuquerque and being in New Mexico is I felt there was such a bigger heart there than in being in right now I'm in Atlanta, and it's a whole different feel. I mean, there was more connectedness, it was more quiet, and just very spiritual. And I really do miss New Mexico and that quietness of the feeling of love for Mother Earth, where in the big city, you're lucky if you see some trees, and I see the trees with a fence around them. And that reminds me of Lady and the Tramp, how when Tramp was going through and he was like, what's this? And the same thing. It's like, and now here I am in South Carolina, and I see the quietness and nature and the birds and this coexistence of life that can be so easily taken for granted. And how to heal. What you're doing is healing people at the core level, working with, for example, the men at these core wounds and bringing them back to who their real essence is.
Absolutely.
And when they heal, I mean, we all lift up. I think we've lost that. I mean, this suppression of people, we don't realize when we suppress others, we all pay the price.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. That's why I like the idea of being instead of fighting, inviting. Like when we moved out here, we're 38 acres in the national forest, surrounded by Santa Fe National Forest outside of our land. And people come here and they're like, oh my God, I forgot about what quiet is. Oh, I forgot about the stars. Or, just to remember where we are. We're part of one of billions of galaxies. We're a tiny speck in a galaxy that's part of billions of galaxies, but we lose that perspective real easily as humans. And yeah, so people come here, and we just had someone who came here from Maine, from the state of Maine, and she was like, oh my God, I had forgotten who I was. Those were her words. And I said, well, what part of you did you remember? And she said, the part of me that loves being with trees and animals and quiet. She said, I haven't been with quiet in years. And, we like being able to have this space for people to do that, to come and remember that they're part of nature. And it's not always easy for people. It's a little primitive. and, and certain things. There's people who I know would not come here because we don't have a dishwasher, we don't have a clothes dryer, we don't have, all those like modern conveniences. And people think that those bring satisfaction or joy. Oh, yeah, I have the best appliances, or I have the best, whatever it is. But what really brings the greatest joy, it's just a long hike in the woods and in the mountains here. And you don't have to say a word. You're hiking with a bunch of dogs, rescued dogs who are in heaven, and you can watch them for pure joy. It's just that remembering who we are and not getting too caught up in human success story or wealth story. I always feel like I've had to redefine wealth. You will not see my wealth by the numbers in my bank account. You will see it by a rich life. So we get to redefine that. What is success? What's a rich life?
Oh, that's very true. We are so blinded by materialism. And I remember just hanging the clothes on the line with my mom as a little girl. And that camaraderie, being with her, was such a beautiful experience. And we would hang the laundry and smell. And I remember watching it blowing. It was just such a wonderful experience that, there's no way to replicate that these simple joys. And we've lost that. We think we can buy those, and we struggle,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh,
keeps us isolated from nature.
yeah. Yep, for sure. It's my mom's always like, oh, please just let me buy you a clothes dryer. And I'm like, oh, please don't. That's one of my greatest joys. I love hanging the clothes out there, and I'm surrounded by hummingbirds and other birds and trees. And, I'm so happy out there doing it.
Well, I hear all the birds chirping during this whole time. They're giving their voice too.
Oh my God, the hummingbirds. We go through 8 to 10 gallons a day of hummingbird nectar. That's how many we have here. It's like I call myself the hummingbird slave. I can't be gone for more than 2 hours because some of the feeders will be empty. So we'll be out like, eating with friends. I'm like, gotta go home, gotta go feed the hummers. And I'm a very willing slave to them. I love it.
That is so cute. So not the crazy cat lady, but the crazy hummingbird lady.
And crazy in many other ways too. The crazy dog lady.
That's too funny. Well, so tell us about what's your latest project that you're working on. Would you say right now?
There are always multiple projects. So I am right now I'm helping. Oh, there's so much. So right here on our land, we have some campsites we rent out, and we do fundraising for Animal Protection New Mexico, and we do it by using this land. So any fees that people pay to camp here everything goes directly to them. So that's been a fun project that my partner JC kind of initiated here. And then, so I'm currently helping a new sanctuary outside of Albuquerque figure out how to get their feet on the ground. Right now, I'm doing a lot of supporting other organizations. I'm volunteering with another organization who has a film and a book that's going to be coming out. And I wish I could reveal more about it, but they're going to have a big reveal. So I'm working with that. Yeah, it's kind of ongoing, supporting different organizations. And a lot of it has become the 6 months that we're gone and we're in Mexico or Central America. It's going to be just Mexico from now on. We drive down with our dogs, and so a lot is doing education and rescue in Mexico, educating people about other species. So it's not just, okay, we're going to jump in here and spay and neuter the dogs and cats. It's more broad based and helping people understand our relationships with all life. And then also boots on the ground, spay neuter clinics and doing that kind of work, and trying not to bring home a whole pack of dogs every year. And we've been very successful so far. We have a self-imposed 2-dog limit, and we have, currently we have 3. So we're doing pretty good. We managed to adopt them out. And yeah, so yeah, it's just, right now it's not as much about my own personal, like in the introduction, you talked about the books. So Little Jew on the Soul Train, I did complete that book. And I move on pretty quickly from a project. So, okay, that one's done. On to the next project, whatever has a lot of life to it. And I planned on having the book on this unhoused woman, Cindy. I planned on having that out last year, but I want to do it with a little bit more mindfulness. And so I completed it, but I'm in a lot of redo with that book. So I'm guessing in a year that one will come out. I just really, really want to give it what it deserves, because that population deserves to be heard. And of course, in anything I write, in the books, I interweave vegan characters always. People who are practicing veganism and compassionate living. And I have to say, I have a little bit of a bias because they generally come out as like the heroes. So I get to do that because I'm the author. So that's really, I really enjoy doing that. I love writing, so that's been great. I have a lot of other projects, so I'm not in a hurry about it. It'll happen when it happens. And it's always, I think that the whole path for the last 48 years has been like, what is in front of me that both nourishes me and helps me feel like I am co-creating a compassionate society. And just doing that without any vision of I have to be, successful in a very narrow way, or famous or anything like that. It's never about any of that for me. I'm very aware I am just another flea on the earth's back, but I have some gifts I can bring. My partner JC and I have a book that's been out for a while, and you can get on our website, you can get a free PDF of that book. And it's called Plant Peace Daily, Everyday Outreach for People Who Care. And that really can help people figure out what's my best way to go beyond my personal choices and bring this to the world, or my community, or my family, or whoever. So it's for people who have no time or a lot of time, no money, a lot of money, whatever it is, introverts, extroverts. It has ideas for everyone that are just very easy, accessible ways to live your values and bring them into the world in a loving and positive way. And sometimes kind of a little bit of a sneaky way. So, so anybody is welcome to go to the website and check out that free PDF too, to find, maybe they'll find some answers about the way they want to bring it into the world and be a co-creator with the rest of us.
Right. And everybody's way of sharing the message is different. So we've got to, look at all these possibilities. And I really loved what we were talking about before. And I think it was that you're basically, to sum it up, you're responsible for yourself, and you're just doing your part in this world. And I love that attitude because it's freeing. Like I don't have to do everything, but I am responsible for doing, living my life in alignment, like you said, with your beliefs, and then doing your part. And I feel like that's what's allowing you to sleep in peace or be in peace.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I've seen this meme a few times online, and it is nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something. And, I was in, JC and I used to live in Georgia. We were in Athens, Georgia. And I was asked to speak at a human rights festival. And I'll never forget this. Like, I was just busy doing stuff. We had a table, and then I was going up to the stage for my time to speak. And then I noticed there was a big banner on the front of the stage, and the banner said, "Stop all wars." And I was like, whoa, that's a really big request. And then I was like, forget what I was going to speak about. I want to talk about this banner. And so I asked the folks who were there, the crowd who was there, I said, I just noticed the banner coming up. Stop all wars. Raise your hand if you feel like you're capable of this. Stop all wars. No hands went up. It was too overwhelming. And then I said, okay, so let's try this. What if we switch the first and last word to their opposite? What about start all peace? How many of you feel capable of that? And every hand went up. And I said, beautiful. Start where you are. Start all peace. Forget about trying to like do everything. Start where you are, and you can do this step by step. You really can. And yeah, I just feel like that is the way it is. Like, we can be really hard on ourselves. Like, I can do it. I can be hard on myself. Like, Jesus, I've been doing this for 48 years, and we still don't have a vegan society. We don't have a vegan human culture. Well, I haven't been very successful. You know how it is. You can be hard on yourself. And the other way to look at it is, I don't get to control the outcome. I just get to show up every day as loving as possible and put my energy into that. And that's all I have control over, really.
Well, that is beautiful. I wish I had seen you in Athens. I went to school there, and I went to one of the human rights festivals when I was there. Yeah,
Oh,
so darn, maybe I did see you. I'm just going to say I did. But anyway, yes. But I love what you just said about that. And it starts with us, and each one of us makes a huge impact. And we have to acknowledge that. We do
yes,
make a difference. Everything we're doing ripples out.
yes, absolutely. I
So it's
love to,
beautiful. Well,
I just, you're part of my big chosen family. And I'm just really grateful for you and what you do in the world. And yeah, you're like a bright light in a place that can sometimes feel a little bit dark.
well, thank you. I'm just honored to have met you and to speak with you now. And let me just also remind the viewers, and then I'm going to also ask you again to tell them where they can connect with you. But we have for viewers in Lansing, Michigan, remember to
Mhm.
visit the vegan owned Everybody Reads bookstore on Saturday, August 31st between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m., where all used book sale proceeds for the day go to all-creatures.org. And thank you, Scott Harris, for this amazing donation to our nonprofit. And don't forget also to go to www.all-creatures.org to check out the hundreds of thousands of pages of free resources updated daily, 7 days a week without break. Or sign up for our weekly newsletter. Be sure to search vegan churches on our site to find vegan faith-based resources near you. And if you know of a resource that's not on our list, please reach out to our executive director, Tams, at all-creatures.org. So, Rae, tell us again where the website is,
Is
and
there
any last final words.
great? So rolling down there. Oh, wait, it's going that way. Um, is my email, and anybody's welcome to contact me, whatever kind of resources you're looking for. And so the website is the same as that, plantpeacedaily.org. And you can reach me either through this email or through the website. And yeah, just anyone who needs anything, just let me know what you need, and I'll figure out either someone who can support you or I'll support you in it.
That's so beautiful. You're such a beautiful light, Rae. Thank you so much for coming. I feel very inspired, and I know that peace starts with me, and peace is there with you and JC, and it's rippling everywhere. So thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you for this. I just treasure the time with you and the connection. It's beautiful.
Well, thanks everyone for watching. And any questions, just comment away on the replay. We love you all, and you all have a blessed day. Thanks, Rae.